Well, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Sherry Rice. I'm Vice Chancellor of Higher Education Workforce Alignment with the Department of Higher Ed. It's a pleasure to have all of you with us today to talk about round 2 of our successful CDL training program. This webinar is going to help describe what the next round looks like of $2.5 million in rewards to institutions providing CDL training. I want to thank the 30 institutions that have received grants this year and all of their success in enrolling and succeeding with their students. Over the past 6 months, grantees have enrolled students, have taken advantage of drawing down the funds, and currently we have 234 students enrolled in these programs. Institutions enroll students prior to the course starting, and we have funded 195 students to date. You receive your reimbursement after a student completes 25% of the course, which helps to ensure funding reaches students participating and moving to completion. The amount dispersed so far in round 1 is over $1 million, so we're so excited for the success. Students are truly completing these training programs and getting jobs in Ohio. 23 students submitted employee verification forms to date, so we have that evidence that they're getting those jobs. These successes start with student interest in the career field and the opportunity for the grant and loan to support their training. Just a reminder of the program format. It's half grant and half loan, and the remainder loan portion is forgiven if an individual works as a truck driver in Ohio for a year after program completion. This afternoon, John McGill, Lisa Reed, Tamika Braswell will describe the application and the program requirements. This is ODHE's team helping you administer the program, and they want to be your key resource and technical assistance as you move forward. Key points during the presentation include institution and student eligibility, past performance with the CDL student aid program for institutions seeking a second funding round. I encourage you to send any questions that you have about the program to the CDL program mailbox, and it will be, the address for that mailbox will be on the final slide. Our team will post all your responses to the ODHE CDL website. Looking forward to reviewing your applications in the 2023 and making awards in February. So with that, it gives me great pleasure to turn it over to the ODHE team, and we look forward to working with you in 2023. Thank you, and I'll turn it over to Tamika, Lisa, and John.
Thank you, Sherry. Good afternoon, everyone. John McGill, and I will start the presentation. So next slide. The first thing that the program is dedicated to, and it's in the enabling legislation, is expanding the CDL talent pool for Ohio. We need more truck drivers. And so to that extent, I'm going to try to share my screen. Oh, Sherry's stepped up. The program's focus is on that. And to do that, as Sherry mentioned, we're going to go over this a number of times just to reinforce the point. It's a 50% grant loan supported training. Oh, perfect, Sherry. Which means the first half of the student's course is $5,000. $2,500 is a grant no matter what, if they complete the course and try to get a CDL license. The other 50% is a forgivable loan if they work in Ohio for 12 months after completion as a truck driver. And this is an important point because it's come up a number of times this fall with questions from institutions, our grantees. A student says, I need a CDL license to get a different job and would not be classified as a truck driver. In that case, the student would not qualify for the loan forgiveness. The legislation is clear that the individual to get the loan forgiveness must be a truck driver in Ohio. Either as an independent operator or working for a company with a location in Ohio. So if someone seeks funding from the program and is not planning to be a driver, they're not a good candidate for the program. And so we just ask you to keep that in mind going forward, because it's come up a number of times. So the program is got the applications out. They're due back to us on January 10th, 2023. As Sherry said in her remarks, we're going to make awards in February. You'll be able to start in March of 23. We've made one change, that we've increased the maximum award to $250,000. We had a number of institutions, approximately a third of our institutions in this funding round, be able to spend all of their money, about $87,000 roughly this time, in less than 6 months. And so we believe there's a strong demand for the program, and that's one of the things that the department wants to recognize, depending on what our demand is from institutions, the ability to increase the award to make sure that we're serving students and working with schools that are able to reach students and help them get jobs. Available funding is the $2.5 million that Sherry mentioned. The other point on this is think about what you can reasonably spend in a year. So if you're a current applicant, you have a little bit of money left and a plan to spend it all, and your plan has been about 4 or 5 students a month, you could submit a request for that level. So put your request together based on what you think you can do at the institutional level. Next slide. So the important point about this is the check mark in the middle, where we provide the institutions, the grantees, with the funding, which you draw down, which we'll talk about. You, the institution, select the students. And this is the most important thing that happens. I often have used this line for years. It gets aged over time because people don't remember Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade movie. But in that, the knight says to Indiana Jones, choose wisely. And here it applies as well. You want to select students who have a commitment to complete the course, try to pass the CDL exam, and work as a truck driver in Ohio. Because failure to do any of those 3 things, once they've signed the promissory note, the third icon, that student, if they don't do those things, will end up in a default status, being sent over to the Ohio Attorney General's office, and collection having to go into repayment status. And so that middle checkbox is the most important thing that happens. Choose students, men and women, who are, want to complete it, are able to be responsible, get through the course, show up on time, hopefully pass the CDL exam on their first try, and have the wherewithal to submit the employee verification forms that demonstrate that they are working in Ohio and they've worked for the 12 months. A little bit of interviewing with students, and once you have them in, counseling them, saying this is how the program works, are important steps to make sure that students don't end up in a surprise situation where all of a sudden they're in default. And so we would encourage you, and you'll hear us talk about this throughout the presentation, just choose those students wisely and give them the support they need to succeed. Next slide. So the department only can work with institutions, grantees, who meet these criteria. And the first is the institution itself, the school, has to be licensed by the director of the Department of Public Safety. We know this is locationally based. A number of entities on the phone have more than one on the call webinar have more than one location. We'll double check that. And this just describes some of the schools that could be there. State Institution of Higher Ed, a number of community colleges have schools. A career college, those are the Ohio School and the State Certificate Registration for the career colleges. Those are some of the private for-profits. And we'll double check if you check on that list. The next slide. We'll also see if you're a private nonprofit institution, there aren't very many of those left, a private institution exempt, so you just have an authorization. And we will also, of course, look at the federal transportation site to make sure that you're eligible. So for last year, this was not an issue at all, and it was certainly helpful for us to see the correlation between the locations on the federal site and the DPS site. The OTCs, we have a number of them in the program. Of the 15 institutions who participated in the 30 that Sherry mentioned in her remarks, 15 were public OTCs, community colleges, and 15 were private for-profit providers of training. So this was exciting for us at the state to see, or higher ed, the collaboration or the interest, I guess, not collaborating with each other, but the interest across the sectors to promote the program and students to get a job as a truck driver in Ohio. And so we are certainly looking forward to more applications in January from the eligible institutions. And as I said, we'll just do a quick cross-check. And last year we had no issues. We look forward to that again, of course. And with that, I will turn it over to Lisa.
Hi, this is Lisa Reed. I am the CDL program manager. I'm going to go over the next several slides. The next one is the eligible students. They do need to be an Ohio resident as defined in the OAC. Now, reminder that the student even if the student is living outside of Ohio and we have a reciprocating program for the other state of Ohio programs, the student is not eligible. They do have to be an Ohio resident. If we're going on down here, they do need to have passed the drug test, moving violations 3 or less in the past 2 years. They had pled not guilty or pled guilty to or been convicted of operating a vehicle under the influence of alcohol or drug abuse in the past 12 months. If you were here in round 1 of the application, you will see that we have now removed the default criteria for round 2. Here at ODAG, we encourage institutions to review a student's federal loan status prior to making an award, but the final decision determination will be up to the institutions for a student who will be awarding who are currently in default. We're asking on this application for a description on how your institution will make that decision. Next one. Did it freeze? Oh, okay. Here we're going to talk about eligible cost and program period. The grant and loan combination, it is a grant and loan combination and may not exceed the cost of tuition and related expenses. The student must accept both the grant and the loan to be eligible. They will sign a promissory note for the loan portion prior to the funding being dispersed to the institution. And this is a 12-month grant agreement to expend all the funding. Employment definition. The employment begins with working for an entity with a valid mailing address in Ohio or be self-employed as a truck driver. They do need to be an Ohio resident and a tax filing. The ODAG will prepare, or we've already prepared the loan verification form. It is on the CDL website if you would like to take a look at it or have your students view that. And that's what they'll complete with their employer to be able to submit for their work verification. They do need to maintain Ohio residency for the year following their completion. In order to be eligible for this employment, we do need to see these 3 steps. One is, of course, they're getting their permit and they're taking the course with you. They're successfully completing the program at your institution, and that includes the class work and their driving hours. And then they're passing their CDL exam and obtaining their Ohio CDL license. The time of start employment is within 60 days of completion of the CDL program with your institution. Employment needs to begin within 60 days from the completion and then remain employed for 1 year, 12 months to be eligible for 100% loan forgiveness. Now, if the employment is not secured within 60 days or is held less than 12 months, the loan portion of the account will be prorated for forgiveness, and that balance would then go into repayment. The AG's office handles all of our repayment. Here is a list of our application elements for you at the institution to complete and submit to us by the deadline. Our goal is to award funds to institutions applying that demonstrate the ability to help Ohio CDL driver talent pool. And so we are looking for the list of the approved programs. We need a copy of your school license, and then you'll see the link there. That is to the Federal Motor Carrier site, registration site, which went active Monday, February the 7th. So we will need a copy that you are registered with them. The program success rate, ODHE hopes to support programs with a successful history of students enrolling, completing, and most importantly, passing the CDL licensed driver's test, leading to employment in Ohio. Any of the new programs or new institutions should provide their plan to enroll students and anticipate success rate with explanation. We also recognize that it's often a challenge to attract students to programs and want to learn how the school plans to build enrollment. In this case, a strong proposal would highlight how the school will recruit students with a commitment to meeting the employment requirement, allowing them to convert the loan portion to a grant. I know from round one, there were a few schools that left off the very last marker there, which was the evidence and/or certification that applicants does not charge employers recruitment fee. So make sure that you are including that statement or certification. Going on with the application elements, we need a demonstration for the CDL drivers in your area. This program is designed to help address an ongoing need for CDL drivers in Ohio. So ODHE is looking with your help to begin to document this need at the local level with data and business information. This may include a number of job postings with the area firms, business quotes about the need, or other information gathered to support the application. If we go on down to the grant and loan requirements at the school, we're looking at the student loan counseling, which includes that employment verification. So in your student loan counseling, an institution may decide to direct some funds to assist different types of individuals explaining the plan in the application. If an institution wants to combine other funds with grant programs to reduce the student's risk in terms of the loan amount, you are allowed to use additional funding. Just keep in mind that with this program, none of the funding can go back to the student. So you're wanting to make sure that you are requesting the exact amount that the student is needing. A part of that loan counseling, explain to the student the promissory note, which we do have a copy of that promissory note from round one on the CDL website for you to view. And then our hope is that each student understands the opportunity and the risk. And if the student should fail to complete the employment requirements, that their account will be turned over to the Ohio Attorney General, which handles all of our repayments, and they would be repaying their loan to them. And that the AG's office determines those repayment terms. The last bulletin there before the link is the program cost. We have attached a Excel workbook to that application. We are asking that you please complete this Excel worksheet to include tuition and related costs for each of your CDL programs that you wish to offer a part of this program. If your institution is awarded, this information will be loaded into our HEI system as part of your award package. We have provided a website link to where you can find the application. Okay. We're going to turn the FAQ section over to Tamika.
Thank you, Lisa. So one of our first frequently asked questions, is the CDL program a grant or a loan? Both. Half of the program cost is considered a grant that does not need to be paid back from the student, and the other half is a loan that is forgiven if the student completes the program and secures employment in Ohio as a truck driver for 1 year. What is the payment process? ODHE awards funds to an institution and executes an award agreement. The school then selects enrolled students to complete the required background check. The school will then determine the requested total amount of funds a student will need from the student aid program, in which 50% of the program cost is a grant and 50% of the program cost is a loan. The student completes and uploads a signed promissory note in which we encourage the school to help with this process. ODHE will then disperse funds that must be credited to the student's account and cannot be reimbursed directly to the student. Our institution received funds in the first round. Do we need to reapply and submit a new application? Short answer, yes. You may start with elements from your first application, and it needs to be updated with current school and program information. Our center offers the CDL program through a contracted service. We handle the recruitment, registration, etc. But the service provider supplies their instructor at our facility, which holds the ODPS license for the program. Are we eligible to apply for this program, for this student aid program for our students? A starting point for any institution is to check that it is on the Federal Motor Carrier Register. If so, your institution may apply. Can you please confirm if a school approved and licensed by the Ohio Department of Public Safety needs any other certifications to be eligible to apply for this funding? An eligible institution must have the appropriate certifications. The complete list is in the posted application. Individual locations must submit separate applications and each must have the appropriate certification. Must a career and technical school be in the state of Ohio? Every applying institution must fall within the listed definition types in the application. So yes, an eligible entity must meet criteria, again, as listed in the posted application. Does this grant allow us to combine other ODHE grant programs to serve more students? For instance, the college also manages the Aspire grant program and the short-term certificate grant program from ODHE. Yes, it is important the institution check the rules, guidelines for each program to ensure they can be used together. This should be done prior to putting the student's financial aid package together. My institution has a brand new CDL program and cannot provide historical student success data. Let me proceed. Let me repeat. My institution has a brand new CDL program and cannot provide historical student success data. Are we eligible to reapply? Yes, if your institution meets the program objective and is on the approved ODPS website and registered with the Federal Motor Carrier Safety Administration registry, then you may apply. How can we leverage this program to assist in our bus driver certification program, which is a CDL? An institution may seek funding for programs that lead to a CDL license. For the loan portion of the funding to be forgiven, the student must secure employment with the title of truck driver. So those are some of our frequently asked questions. If we missed something, if you have any additional questions, please send that to our CDL email at cdl@highered.ohio.gov. And I think we have a question in the box. Lisa, if you can read it off to me and then either one of us will answer.
Okay, we've got one question. It's, would I qualify for this program while driving for the post office? And I can answer that with, with the employment verification form, the employer would need to sign and certify that the student is utilizing their CDL license as a truck driver. So depending on how your title and how your employer looks at your employment, then you would be eligible. That they do have to sign off certifying that you are a truck driver.
Thank you for that question. I think there's another.
Can I ask a question related to entry level wage be added to ODHE's employment verification form? I think we had indicated that we're not interested in the wages. And so legal has advised that the form that we have the students completing is what the information that we need. The current grant funding goes through the end of May, which that is correct. It goes to the last day of May. If awarded the new grant, does it definitely start in March, or could it start when we have fully expended the first grant? This one would start when the award is started. So if it is awarded in March, it would go from March to March.
March to February.
Or March to February, sorry, if it's awarded the 1st of March. The next one, isn't entry level wages something grantees must report on? No.
I don't believe it's an application, John. Is that correct?
It's not, but I think we may have included it as a reference when we started the program a year ago, as we were working with legal, as one of our annual reporting questions. And so we probably need to revise that report to reflect the advice we've gotten since.
Okay, thank you for that clarification. Does that clarify it?
Taylor says it's in the RFP. I think we had, let me pause for a minute and double check Taylor's question. Thanks.
Okay, thank you. We'll go on to the next question as we review that. Oh, no other questions?
No other questions at this time.
If you have a question, if anyone wants to type it in the chat. And just a reminder that this is being recorded and will be posted on our website by the end of the week.
Has to go with the post office question. Would a job at the Department of Transportation qualify as an acceptable job to be eligible for this program? Again, the employer would need to sign the form, and you can take a look at the form on our CDL website. And the employer would have to certify that the student is employed as a truck driver. How soon can you start the program? When does the application open? The application for the institutions is open now, and with the deadline of January 10th. From there, we'll be reviewing the applications, and we are looking at awarding the 1st of March, or in the March timeframe, I should say.
And if this question is from the student perspective, then once the institutions are awarded, you can then reach out to those awarded institutions to apply directly to them and follow their process. This particular webinar is geared toward the institutions applying for the funding.
To confirm, if you have multiple locations in the state, you must apply for each location separately. Yes,
That is correct.
And to Taylor's question, it's one of the elements that we included as a potential in the annual reports and maybe revised. So I think you'll see us, as we learn more about the program, potentially change the annual report structure that's currently described on page 6 of the application.
Thanks, John.
Thanks for the catch, Taylor.
Question, can an extension be requested if grant funding is not fully extended within the date awarded?
John?
Thanks, Tamika. That's a question that we will evaluate on a case-by-case basis. So the answer is not a hard no or yes, will depend on the situation with that particular institution. But certainly with the answers, we would entertain it before we make a decision.
Would it be possible for the employment verification form to be sent to the institution in addition to ODHE? The form currently states it should be returned to ODHE, but this information would be help us fulfill our reporting duties. Is this something ODHE can share with the institution, perhaps through a data sharing agreement?
That's a great question.
I do, because I'm the one that is getting the forms for our current students. And I have a handful of institutions that the students are already handing them over or emailing them to the institution at the same time that they're emailing it to me. Once I do put the information in the system, you, as an institution, you are automatically getting an email letting you know that I've received it. Now, I did have one institution that didn't receive it and requested that information. I did contact the student asking permission to relay that information over to them. Since I received it directly from the student. So I would say that would be, as of right now, would be a conversation that you would have with your student, asking your student to CC you on the email.
With the
Until
verification.
the verification. Because the student is signing off because the agreement is between us and the student.
Right. I mean, that is a great question. We can follow up with legal to see if there's something on our end that we can send to you indicating that the student has completed the verification form.
On a student's perspective, where do we find a list of the awarded institutions? And that is also on the CDL website. There is a map of the current institutions that were awarded for round 1, and we plan on doing the same thing for round 2. We are a private carrier that trains our own employees to obtain their CDL license. We are not required to have a state license, but do report to TPR. Would we qualify for this grant funding?
No, per our statute, you'd have to be a part of the EPS and the federal motor. John, did you have something to add to that?
No, I was going to say that the statute lists DPS, so that's sort of where that's our link to the Department of Public Safety. So your answer, I was going to go with your answer. I hit mute by accident. Sorry.
Any other questions? Okay, we'll give it just one moment if anyone wants to type in a last minute question. I'm just a reminder that this will be recorded. This is being recorded and will be posted on our website by the end of the week.
When will the map of the awarded institutions be updated after the funds are awarded? It'll be updated immediately.
Right. So this application period for the institutions ends on January 10. Then it'll be reviewed, and then the tentative timeline is for the award agreements to be completed in March. And as soon as that is done, then those institutions will be posted on our website for the second round. Okay, seeing no other questions, thank you guys for your time, for attending this afternoon. Everyone have a great holiday.